welcome to this conversation presented by White House Custom Color. I'm Jed Toffer. Thanks for listening. You know, my wife Vicki and I have owned and operated our photography studio, V Gallery, for 20 years now. White House has been our lab for the last 16 of those years, and we could not be happier. White House is a family-run business, just like ours. If you haven't already, check them out at whcc.com. And if you want to drop me a line, feel free to email me at jed@whcc.com. I know what it's like to work in a family business. Multiple family businesses, actually. And a multi-generational business is special. They have their own set of challenges, but there are some very unique aspects that make them beautiful. Drake Busath is part of one of the best-known multi-generational photography studios in the country. Founded by his parents and currently run day by day by his boys, Busath Photography in Salt Lake City, Utah was and is in very good hands. Always the craftsman, Drake now finds himself pursuing his own thing more and more as he helps others become better artists.
With me, it would probably get less emotional. All right.
Good.
I'm kind of a cold fish.
You certainly are cold. You're a cold dude. That's what I always think of when I think of Drake Busath. He is so cold.
Well, I think I'm shy about going there. About going into that emotional zone. Probably because I'm a crier, and
You are a crier?
Yeah, I do come unglued.
You're a cold crier?
Oh, yesterday I'm a cold crier. No, I just avoid that zone because I know I'm sensitive to that, and
You're guarded.
I'm guarded against it.
Yeah.
Yesterday I teared up on during my program because I mentioned my dad who passed away.
Yeah.
And a couple years ago, and so usually I talk about him without much emotion,
But it struck you.
It just hit me, and I think, oh boy, here we go. I shouldn't have gone down that road in front of all these people.
Your dad's a big deal, but you should have. I mean, lots of people know you guys,
and it's after he passed away that I realized, how connected we really were, and how much like him. Spoke at his funeral, so I'm thinking about those those parallels in our lives, and then I'm realizing more and more, oh man, I'm doing the same things he did, and I'm acting the same way. My wife says I walk the same way, and I'm thinking, no, wait a minute, that's the one guy I never thought I was anything alike.
You didn't think you were.
Turns out, my son the other day, he said, you're now the old block.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man, life changes, and you don't see it coming.
What does the family structure look like at the business today?
Well, I have two sons that work in the business of our four kids. Our oldest two ended up in the business. As hard as I tried to keep them out of it,
You did?
really tried. I really wanted them to get real jobs.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's how you look at it.
My deal with them growing up as teenagers, I said, as soon as you have a graduate degree, then we'll talk. Then we could even consider the idea. But then they were working there with part-time jobs and going to school, which was okay with me. And then we got to this point. I got a bad bout of cancer.
Yeah.
And there was a year when I really couldn't work, and the two of them had graduated. They both have econ degrees, but they didn't get that graduate degree.
They didn't get the master's.
Wanted because it was my fault, because they kind of came in and saved the business.
While you were sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And kept things running for that year, and then I slowly got back in, and we ended up partners. So we're equal partners in the business, and one son, Richard, is the head photographer and is over all things photography, and the oldest son, Bromley, is the general manager, and he's got 12, 15 people to manage, and he's so good at that. He's you sort of need an IT person in the business.
Yes, more than ever these days.
And and you need an HR person, and he fills all, and he's the head of the sales team, and he kind of heads up So that's very freeing for me. It's a real blessing for me.
How was it when you were sick? Was it terrifying?
Yeah. At first it was. It wasn't very long till I adjusted to it. That was surprising. I got sick, and then I thought, it was kind of like you get sick, you're going to get better, pretty good odds. You go through it, and then in my case, the whole thing came back on me 6 months later.
That's what I remember.
Yeah,
I remember thinking that everything was good with Drake.
Yeah, I went
And
through
then
the
I remember
chemo
thinking-
and the surgery and all that,
Yeah.
and then you go, and then 6 months later it was back. So at that point,
Right.
you figure, okay, it's over. I mean, that was, then I had a low odds, like they said, 20%.
Right.
And so at that point, you go through some mental adjustment. What was surprising is how my attitude was pretty upbeat about it. I thought, oh man, I'm 50 years old. I've done a lot more than I ever expected to do.
Yeah.
I've traveled. I've got friends all over the country because of this profession, and I just thought, yeah, I've checked them all the boxes.
Right.
I'm fine.
You felt pretty good about it.
It will not be a tragedy
Oh,
to go.
yeah. I get it.
It really felt that way, and,
Right.
and I adjusted quickly to it. I don't know how many people that happens for. Maybe that happens for everyone, but then here's the problem. Here's what happens is then you recover. So then I found great doctors the second time around.
Yeah.
And I had set aside all my ambitions. Like I had no more ambitions because I thought
Because
it was
you had made
checking
peace.
out.
You
I
were
had
ready
made
to
peace.
you were ready to move on.
I had
And then all of a sudden
stopped making
you get
life
better.
insurance premium payments.
And
and you're better. And
you
now
get better.
what? Yeah. And now all those those goals that you have, that ambition that you have, was gone. So I didn't know quite where to go or what to do. I think I'm still in. It's been 6 years since then, but I'm still a little bit in that state, and a little bit in limbo about where I want to go.
But in the midst of all that, the boys essentially came in, right?
Yeah, they came in during that, and they proved that they could do
Right.
things better than me.
Is that right?
And they enjoyed it.
Right.
So
Right.
that the attitude changed for me, and I enjoyed seeing them take over and do it, and they're just so smart and so much quicker thinkers than I am, and they both have fallen into these roles in the business that are complementary. So that's been a really good, fortunate thing, because I think if they were both overlapping their interests or responsibilities in the business, that would be tough.
Mm-hmm.
Working with your family can be challenging.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
I did that for a lot of years.
I'm curious. We're looking at the third generation now,
Right.
and your mom and dad start the business, and you come in, and now your boys have come in, and they're both pretty well situated, and their roles are defined,
Right.
and things are running relatively smoothly. What do you attribute what's the common thread, I guess, between each generation that has attributed to a successful business in a relatively, especially these days, difficult field to have a business like that? There aren't a lot of businesses on your level in this industry. Certainly not anymore.
Right.
The landscape has changed. There are a lot of photography businesses, but they don't look like yours. What is it about yours that has been different from the beginning, maybe? How did it happen?
Right. A couple of thoughts come to mind. One is that we set up early and then continued to set up systems and operate think of ourselves a little more like a big business. That's always been my sense, is that if I do things as if I were a big business.
No matter what.
I know we're a ma and pa shop. No matter
Right.
what, we're going to be a photo studio, but but we think in those terms, and that means to me, setting up systems. The term that you hear is I'm a slave to the business. Or,
I have heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that just means that you have not set up systems to take care of the problems for you. So all the problems come back to you.
Yeah.
And so that materializes in a few ways. Hiring employees, you going out on a limb. Yeah, I'm not sure how I'm going to pay these wages this year, but I'm going to go ahead and put in a receptionist to answer the phone so that I don't have to be there or be answering the phone. And hiring assistants has been really important.
So lots of delegation.
A lot of delegation, right? And one system that we put into place is an employee handbook. That's something a real business would do, right?
Right, a real business.
Yeah. And so we try to act like a real business.
Right.
And then those questions get answered without me having to get that call or policies, session policies. What if the customer asks this? We have to call Drake and okay everything.
Right.
Or is there a policy that answers that question? So setting up systems is kind of a broad term, but having employees has been really a key to our culture, and allowed us to grow. You build it and they will come concept. You go out, you hire and spend on faith a little bit. So we've operated that. Sometimes, I always know that a lot of that is out of sheer laziness because I don't want to do everything.
Well, that's honest.
It is. I mean, it's true. It's like I in the old days, I don't want to mask negatives, and nowadays,
I don't want to cull 16,000 images.
Right.
Somebody else can do that.
Yeah, and I don't want to be a shopkeeper. I don't want to be a slave to have to be there to open that door at a certain time every day.
Right. Well, and everybody has these decisions to make, right? Like there are one person businesses all over the place.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that a script isn't valuable for you to have. It doesn't mean that you can't consider bringing an intern in to do some of the things that you don't want to do anymore, right?
Yeah, right. But you do have to enjoy managing or enjoy being with other people. I really like collaborating. I like the energy of other people around. So it's my personality. So another key is just designing the business to your own personality. That's been key for us, which means it's not my personality to be in the sales room. And so I hire
you get salespeople. Right.
Yeah. Not my personality to be, active in social media. So I have
somebody does it.
Someone else does that, and a lot of that we can beat ourselves up about. I should be doing this. You go home from convention, you got this long list of things you should be doing.
Yeah, right.
And so maybe turn that list into who can I hire to do this, this, and this instead. There's another thought though, and that is that's helped us grow the business. And maybe not beat ourselves up all the time. And that is, I've never considered myself an artist. I've never thought about I'm a true artist, and I'm performing my art for my clients. I think that of myself as a craftsman, and the reason that helps is because I don't lay awake at night thinking about how I can create an original piece of art tomorrow. The ideal thing for me is somebody says, so what are you doing tomorrow? I don't know. I'm working. Or you have sessions? Yeah, I have sessions, but I don't know what they are. And that frees my mind. It frees me to think about the business more. I'm not. So this whole thing about being an artist, it doesn't jive with being a business person.
Yeah, sometimes there are some big conflicts.
Yeah, and an artist is operating in their own interest. I'm just doing my own thing. Right. I don't care what the client thinks. I don't care what the judges think. I don't care what the editors think. Nothing. But we're not that. That's not what portrait photographers, working on commission or commission jobs for their clients, are doing. We're craftsmen, and so I think that culture was established early in our business, that our style is pretty predictable. It's classic. We're not reinventing all the time. It helps a lot not to be chasing trends. It helps to grow the business, because if you're constantly evolving, chasing trends, let's say, then your clients don't know who you are.
Right. It affects your brand.
Right.
You guys have a brand where your clients know what to expect.
Our brand has been stable and traditional, and that's helped us grow. I believe that. I think families can trust. We're not going to embarrass them, or
sure,
experiment with them too much.
Right.
So that's part of it. But I think the biggest part is just trying to act like business people. I bet my mom brought a lot to me, because she was not interested in being a photographer in any way.
Right.
Didn't ever go in the camera room.
Right.
She thought of herself as a business person, aspired to that.
Right.
And so I'm kind of a half breed.
You're in between.
I'm in between. I got half and half.
You got a little bit of each.
I'm a conflicted person.
As a result,
but
sure.
The laziness wins out. The delegation part, that wins.
Oh man, yeah. I don't think I see you the way that you see yourself. I've never thought of Drake as cold or lazy. You're telling me a lot about yourself
learning
today.
New things.
Now, you worked with and for your parents for a number of years. Now your boys are doing the same with and for you.
Right.
What sort of things do you want to pass on to them from your parents? What sort of things did you learn from your mom and dad, whether directly or indirectly, that you hope to instill in your boys?
On a personal level, or
whatever
in
you
the
got.
business, whatever I got.
Both, ideally.
From my dad, I would like to. I admired his single-mindedness and his focus, and I think that serves everybody well. And what I'm thinking about with him is he was a musician. He was very single-minded about that. He was a professional musician, and then he got into photography, and he was he just really, really cared about making a quality image, and everything else kind of disappeared as he was just focused on that. And thank goodness he had a wife who was a business manager for him. But that single-mindedness is something that I feel that I've envied and lacked at times, drawn here and there and more scattered, in my thinking. And so I hope that my sons find that, because I think it brings you some peace in your life if you're not pulled this direction and that all the time. And so that's possibly something I'd like to see them inherit from him. Maybe it skipped a generation.
Sometimes they do. It skips. I've got my grandpa's hair. I'm losing it. That's how I know.
That's what they say.
What about from your mama?
Mom is an efficient person. She really values efficiency, and so I think she taught me. I didn't know this would be about my parents, but it's kind of nice to talk.
It's hard not to be when I'm talking to you.
Yeah,
it's hard not to be.
She would say, pick up a piece of paper once and deal with it, get it done. Just touch that paper once. That's a nice concept, and I hope that they build that into their lives, so that you deal with problems once and then you move forward, rather than, and maybe that relates to that single-mindedness of my father, that instead of having your mind, instead of being conflicted about whether, for instance, to be an artist or a business person, he just chose the artist route.
Yeah.
He did, but luckily, he had someone to
help with the other
take
piece.
care of the other piece.
Yeah.
So I hope that they can have both those qualities. Perhaps one of them will be the efficiency expert, and one of them will run the artistic, let's call it artistic craftsmanship side of the business, because I really don't feel that we're an art studio. I think that we need to think of ourselves as really fine craftsmen who can produce a product that's a little better each time we do it, and perhaps that's Richard's task in life, and he does do that, and he is naturally gifted at that.
You proud of your boys?
Oh, immensely. It's really something to look at people that you've raised and realize that they've exceeded your capabilities. It was my job to teach them all this stuff, and now they're teaching me things. We have such a great time, and with all 4 kids, they are funnier than I am. They're more interesting. They're they're more talented, and so I'm immensely proud to just go to lunch with them and just sit them and listen to the banter or watch them deal with clients.
So Busath is in very good hands.
It really is.
Moving forward.
Yeah, I can walk away tomorrow.
Yeah.
And the business will get better. It will improve.
Yeah.
Without me. I'm a little bit of a drag on it at this
I'm
point.
Sure. Right.
And I do walk away. I'm gone in the spring and fall for a month or 2 each, off doing my workshops in Italy. So
always Italy, right?
Always Italy, although we've expanded a little over the border into France.
Okay.
But Italy's my thing.
Why is Italy your thing? I've known that about you for a long time, but I never knew why Italy.
Yeah. Well, it may be the reason I've been able to stay in photography, because I have this diversion. I have this, it's a hobby, but it's a weird hobby because... So first of all, I lived over there when I was a kid for a little while, okay. And I learned to speak Italian. So any excuse to go back and and speak the language and kind of hang out over there. I have no Italian blood, but I fell in love with the culture, and I really enjoy it. So I came up a long time ago, 20 years ago, with this idea while I was out speaking at conventions, the routine, 3 days in Holiday Inn and Des Moines or whatever. And it was one of those trips I thought, there's got to be a better way. So I organized a little conference in Italy.
You're Italy would be better.
Yeah. Let's spend 3 days there instead, So I did with the help of some friends, Mike Taylor and Helen Yancey. We said, hey, let's do a little conference in Italy, and 45 people showed up the first time,
Yep.
And that was before, websites or even email. We were handing out flyers.
Right.
But
that's how we did things back then.
Yeah.
Flyers.
Pieces
of paper with information on them.
Right.
And that's how you knew about it.
Anyway, I just kept doing it. It was kind of a hobby at first, and then pretending to be a business.
Right.
But I kept doing it, and it evolved. It changed. Now we go. It's a landscape and fine art workshop. It's a retreat for photographers that just want to be artists. Get away and be an artist. That's really hard for professionals to do. To actually work for yourself. If
right.
And that's the challenge over there. Getting overseas sort of is one way to help you separate yourself from that business. But even then, you still got the judges over your shoulder telling you what to shoot.
Right.
And you've got this expectation maybe you'll sell work in galleries. What will the public want to see? Yes. And so you're all caught up with beauty and, the principles that PPA has taught you. And it's so hard for people to say, if no one ever saw these images but me, what would I do?
Right.
Because they don't know. I'm saying we as professionals.
We don't think that way very often.
We don't, which tells me that we're craftsmen in most of our life and not true maverick, solo artists.
Right.
And I know that we all manage to break loose and create our own art at times on our own, and it's just when you get caught up in the business and you're doing it every day and at conventions all the time, then you lose track of that sometimes. And so going to Italy is a way for people to come and reconnect with that.
You can correct me if I'm wrong, but watching you talk about what you're doing with Italy and in Italy and the reasons behind it and really how much it means to you. Like I can see it in your face, in your body language. It sounds to me like it's the result of ambition.
Yeah. I'm
just throwing it out there.
Yeah. I think that's the first place that I'm finding ambition again is in that desire to find my own art. And Italy represents that. I mean, I can do it in my backyard, of course, but something about getting away helps me.
Right.
But that's my ambition now. You're right about that.
I'm just throwing it out there because I see it.
It's to create personal art.
Yeah.
Whether it ever gets shown or published or seen or sold doesn't much matter anymore. It's just this desire to find out what it is that is purely me, and images that are purely me. And
well, I'm also struck by your desire to help other people do the same thing for themselves.
You're right about that, man. You're good.
Well,
you see right into my soul, man.
It's written on your forehead. It's almost written in marker on your forehead when you're talking about it.
Showing people around and helping them, have these discoveries, have these great moments, just sends me. I have friends that say, why in the world do you do that? Why don't you just go travel alone? Why do you want to travel with 12 people? But there is something about seeing things through other people's eyes, especially if they're seeing them for the first time or if they're having a discovery or even if they're sitting there having a meal, last time we were there, sitting there having pizza made by this family at their home and overlooking the Mediterranean. Their people are just full of joy in this experience, and it had nothing to do with photography, but I experienced a real high that evening. That and I thought, why am I? I've had pizza before, but this is. It was watching them eat the pizza. I was getting more joy out of.
I've had pizza before.
Yeah. Anyway, those moments and then photographically, it's satisfying too. But I think just the travel part of it really appeals to me, and showing people behind the scenes in Italy. Right. I love that. I love it when someone comes over and they've been there before and they did the Rome, Florence, Venice thing, and now they're there. And we're in a little, village that no one's ever heard of, and they have that experience, and they light up over it, and I feel like I helped, I facilitated that.
You don't know this maybe exactly, but you're talking about me right now. Yeah. Well, about what I hope will be me soon. In that I've been to Italy a couple times to the big places, loved it, and I'm going back in April with you. Right. In this group that we're in, XXV. And I told Vicky the reason that I really want to go is because this is really Drake's trip. And I want to go to Italy with Drake. I want to.
Nice.
That's true. I want to be there under your guidance to some degree, right? And ask you questions and have you there to kind of show me this and show me that, and everybody else too. But that's the big incentive for me. Everybody in this group is great, but this is your trip and I'm fired up to go to Italy with Drake Busath.
Well, that thrills me.
It's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
I love that. Maybe growing up in the family business and working with your parents, you really have to establish your own thing somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's it for me. That's been my handle.
Yeah.
I started a second studio in another city as a way to do that, establish myself.
Right.
But it still wasn't completely me. And Italy has been my thing.
Well, it's an interesting thing that you bring up, because I grew up working with my dad in his company, and it was all, everybody knew my dad, and I was always my father's son. And then I get married and my wife starts a company, and then I was my wife's husband.
Right. Yeah.
And my brother knew a lot of people, and a lot of times, oh, you're Kip's brother. And that was all true. And for the most part, I was fine with that. But it is intriguing when you can do something and you feel as though this is mine. I'm not in my dad's shadow or my wife's shadow or my brother's shadow. Like, this is mine. They didn't do any of this. This was me. And I feel like Italy is certainly that for you. When you talk about your Italy workshops, everything on your face changes. It really does. And I think you really enjoy seeing those light bulbs go off for people when they're over there and you're in that environment, and so much gets stripped away of what life is like here normally for all of us.
Right.
And when you're over there and all of that is gone, and it's so much easier maybe for people in that environment to see things clearly regarding becoming an artist as opposed to being a craftsman. Right. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yep, it is. It does. And it is my thing. I've always envied photographers who start their own business in a way. I mean, I've felt sorry for them because they have to go through that.
Because it's hard, right?
Inventing it, building it from scratch. Right. I never had to do that.
Right.
But on the other hand, I've always thought, this is your thing. You built this out of nothing.
Right.
And I'll stand there and talk to them. They're asking me how to be successful, and I'm envying them for the journey that they've taken and not envying them so much. I should say I'm admiring them for having built something from nothing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I get that kind of satisfaction from the workshops for sure.
Is that a big part of what your future is the next 5-10 years?
I think it is. It's my exit door from the portrait business. However, I've built this exit door, but I don't know how to go through it. I can't step out of it,
There it is. Right.
So I go, I do. I go out and then I come back in. I'm right standing in the doorway like there's an earthquake or something. Because I know that in my future I'll still want to go in the studio with people. Yeah. And I'll photograph black and white. Right. And it'll be in studio, and I will enjoy that, and I'll always enjoy it, and I will try to put my a stamp on it that's really more personal than I've done in building our business. And I'll try to not get in the way of the craftsmanship in the business. Let it so that my sons are successful. Mm-hmm. But just do that privately, and then I will do as much traveling. I'm not built for being on the road all the time, so I won't ever build an empire over in Italy. The bus tours, there'll never be a Rick Steves,
Right.
But I will continue to do it, and that'll let me do my thing as long as I can keep as long as they let me on the plane. It's not getting on the plane and getting off. It's getting up and down the stairs in Italy. As long as I can do that, right. Yeah, I'll keep heading over there.
There are some steps in Italy. That's true.
Italy is built of stairs. Yeah,
full of steps.
It is. It's all steps.
Where do people go to find information about those workshops? I know we didn't talk about that, we didn't talk about talking about it, but where do people go?
You can find the website italyworkshops.com.
Oh.
Pretty easy.
It's not too hard to remember.
Or they can look up how to have a great time with a camera in Italy with Drake Busath.
There you go.
And they'll find me.
thanks for doing this with me today. You said
Thanks for having me.
You said you were a little nervous, and
I was nervous.
That made me nervous.
And and very honored that you'd asked.
Oh, of course. You've been on my list for 15 months.
Oh, nice to know.
Finally cornered you here at Imaging USA in Atlanta, 2019.
I appreciate that. It means a lot. Thank you.
Thanks, brother.